everyone! Today we're going to be reacting to Rotten Mango. His wife vanished on a moving train video. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to watch the whole video. This is going to be in two parts, unfortunately, just because of how my computer works right now. I'm trying to get stuff fixed and it's not working. But yeah, we're just going to start with this one again. This will be a two-parter, so I will post part one, and then I'll post part two next following week. But yeah, so yeah, let's go ahead and get this video started.
Bada bing, bada boo.
The couple are falling asleep to the ch noise of the train. It's almost hypnotic. This time, they had prioritized their comfort over being financially responsible. They booked the sleeper seats. Money well spent. I mean, their beds are tiny. They each get one right next to each other, but they're still out in the open. It's a 3-level bunk bed system. They have a row of people above them and a row of people below them. And their bunks are just out. Anyone passing through the aisle can see anybody that's on any of these bunk beds just falling asleep. But at least they can fully lay down and sleep the entire 11-hour ride back home. Gia, the wife, she shakes her husband awake. Husband Lee, L-I, slowly opens his eyes and he checks his phone. It's 1 a.m. I'm gonna use the restroom real quick. Lee nods and he starts pulling the blanket off of him, but his wife stops him.
Mouth moving.
It's okay.
I'm eating.
I'll be right back.
I got home late.
She points down
now.
at the elderly people that are underneath them in the bunks below. I mean, if both of them, her and her husband, climb down from the middle bunk, there's a higher chance that the elderly couple are going to wake up. And look at them. They look like they're deep in sleep right now. There's no point in disturbing any of that. It's okay. I have my phone. I'm going to be right back. Lee, the husband, hesitates, but he just watches his wife climb down the bunk bed ladder and rushes off to the restroom. He glances out the window. It's pitch black outside. I mean, they must be crossing through a very rural area because there's no buildings. There's no light coming from outside the window at all. Just ch, the noise of the train on the tracks. And then boom, the train shakes and Lee jumps awake. What was that? He must have fallen asleep and it must have been some sort of rock that hit the window or something. He rubs his eyes and he checks his phone. It's 1:30 a.m. He looks to his left and his wife is no longer in her bunk bed. It has been 30 minutes since she went off to use the restroom. She should be back by now. His mind starts racing because that's weird, right? He quickly puts on his shoes, climbs down the bunk bed ladder, walks to the restroom in their carriage, because, you know, each train has a carriage 13. It's empty. She's not in there. His heart starts pacing faster, but it's fine. I mean, calm down. This makes sense. Sometimes if the restroom in the carriage that you're in is busy, you go to the carriage over. So he runs over to carriage 14 and he slams the bathroom door open. It's empty. She's not in there. He does this with carriage 15 and as many restrooms as he can before he feels this intense panic, this tightening in his chest. He runs all the way to the train conductor's cabin and he starts banging on the door. The conductor opens it up, 1:30 a.m. He looks confused, stressed. Please, you have to help me, sir. My wife is missing. The train conductor looks at the husband for what feels like multiple seconds because I think he's just processing what he just said. And then slowly, his lips just turn into a smile. And he's smiling at husband Lee. What do you mean your wife is missing? That's impossible, sir. Nobody goes missing on a moving train.
Okay, the smiling, I'm a little suspicious about what's going on here. That's even if you are trying to process it and like you're like, oh no,
we would like to thank
wrong,
today's
sir,
sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten
smile.
Mango to support the Amputee
I don't
Coalition
know.
of America. They have hundreds
just
of
gives me
support
the
groups,
wrong vibes.
descriptions of physical violence, injuries, and amputations. So with that being said, let's get started. It doesn't matter if you want to stop. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. That is likely one of the very first things that all train conductors are taught. If you press the emergency brake right now, you will come to a complete full stop, probably from a mile from here. There is no immediate stopping a train. Imagine telling a swarm of 100 elephants to instantly stop running at full speed. It's not going to happen. And sometimes that means you watch disaster happen and know that there is absolutely nothing that you can do about it. That is the only thought going on in the train conductors' minds when they see a body on the middle of the tracks, wearing a thick winter coat, just laying there. Hurry, do something! They both know that there's nothing either of them can do. They pull the emergency brakes and stop a mile later. After 30 seconds, that's how long it takes to come to a complete stop. Hurry, somebody call the police, we gotta go. Everything is happening so fast but so slow at the same time. The way that the train hit and ran over the body in the winter coat was so quick and so subtle that they couldn't even visually see the body. It's likely they wouldn't even have noticed or felt it if they hadn't made eye contact. There was a train conductor who hit a cow once, a 1,000-pound plus cow. And they said it felt like when you're driving on the highway, a small bee hits your window, you kind of hear the sound, but you don't feel the whole car shake. It doesn't even dent your window. That's what it felt like. So of course, they didn't feel anything with the winter coat on the tracks. But now they're trying to head back as quickly as possible to check and see if everything is okay. Who is it? Why are they laying on the tracks in a giant puffy winter coat? What the hell is going on? They rush all the way back to this now blood red soaked winter coat that looks completely mangled.
Dude, I'd be mortified if I ran over a dead body.
A human,
whether I'm in a train or a car, I'd be mortified.
Someone had put a winter coat on a deer and laid it down on the tracks.
What?
This is the very strange life of a train conductor. You almost never know what to expect during your shift. It could be nothing, or it could be a nearly unsolvable mystery of why would somebody do that? But train conductor Zhao knows that this is not one of those instances. I mean, the only mystery is how not very intelligent this passenger is. What do you mean your wife is missing? She's missing, sir. She was with you on the train, and now she's not? That's what missing means. She's missing. You have to help me find her. Train conductor Zhang pauses and lets out a smile because this is probably going to be the least exhausting task of the day. The first logical place to search is the dining cart. It's right at the center of the train, and when you step in, the first thing you notice is the smell. And then the sound, all of the rattling sounds of the silverware and cups as the train moves along. It's just what you imagine the place to be. There's rows of tables and chairs along each side of the carriage. It's like a breakfast restaurant that sells pancakes, the ones that have those sticky syrup dispensers, but maybe a little bit nicer. The tables are covered with white linens, glass windows on both sides, and you can just see everything blurring past you. It's about 2 a.m., but there's somebody leaned up against the window, reading a newspaper, drinking a cup of hot coffee. He looks over his newspaper at Lee and the conductor and goes straight back to reading. This carriage is a relatively quick search. They check under each table, each deep red-colored booth, under them, under the ground, and as the conductor expected, no signs of Gia anywhere in the dining cart. She's probably in a restroom somewhere. Lee and the conductor, they start making their way over to the seating carriages. This train in particular has 18 carriages, 18 different compartments, if you will. 8 are for sitting and 8 are for sleeping. Those are excluding the dining carriage, storage carriages, the train conductor carriage. These are just the passenger areas. It's a big train. In total, the train can carry up to 1,500 people. They have a lot of square footage to cover during this search. They start with the hard seat carriages. Chinese seating carriages are typically split up into 3 different levels. The first is not even a seating carriage. You get to stand. For less than $1 for an 11-hour train ride, you have the joy of standing the entire trip. You can maybe sit on your luggage. You can maybe sit on the floor. Or if you're lucky, you can maybe sit on somebody's seat when they go use the restroom for about 2 seconds.
No.
But otherwise, you're on your 2 feet the entire way.
The
carriage with people standing are going to be a hard search because they're packed with people. It's not much different from trying to swim through a...
Like, maybe it was like for an hour, okay, but like 11? Yeah, no, that's not happening.
You can't see anything but the person in front of you.
Not happening. No way, Jose.
Excuse
I'm
me.
not doing that.
Gia, are you in here? Say something, Gia. She's not. They get to the hard seat carriages. You might as well be sitting on an uncomfortable park bench or a plank of wood at 90 degrees. Sometimes the people with the hard seat tickets will get up to use the restroom, and when they get back, they see a stander sitting in their spot. Oh, sorry, I have a standing ticket, but I did... Here, let me get up. It's okay. You can sit. You can sit. The hard seats are so uncomfortable, they start thinking, maybe I should have gotten a standing ticket. How is standing more comfortable than sitting? They go row by row of the hard seat carriages. Most people are knocked out, dead asleep, head leaning up against the stranger next to them. I mean, they don't care. It's 2 a.m. They don't care about social etiquette. They just need to find a nice surface to lay their head down. The conductor is shining his bright flashlight at each of the faces. They're all squinting, using their arm to block the light. Hey, what are you? Sorry, my wife is missing. I'm looking for my wife. Gia. Then the two head over to the soft seat carriages. There are a bit less people in there. The seats are the ones that you would expect, cushiony, almost like an airplane seat. And as they're going through the aisles of the soft seating carriages, and the longer they can't find Gia, the more the train conductor and husband Lee feel confused. I mean, Gia's disappearance just doesn't even make sense. It's like a weird magic trick. You know how those magicians will make someone disappear on stage? There's no way it makes sense. People don't just disappear, but they're doing it on stage, so it really feels that way, doesn't it? If you just sit in the crowd, you turn your brain off, you have a really good time. The magician can do something that nobody else in the crowd can do. They can do magic. Poof, person here, person gone. But if you start thinking, if you really start thinking, where did they disappear to? You start getting some real answers, and it's never magic. Where the magician will put someone in a box, you can see that they barely fit in there. Box closes up. Magician starts stabbing swords into the box, and it makes you nervous that the person inside is getting stabbed. But then they take out the knives one by one, open the box back up, and the person is fine, unharmed. Usually, it's a false bottom. There's a hidden trapdoor, a compartment underneath them that they hide in, or maybe a trapdoor behind them. Because even now, the conductor knows nobody just disappears on a moving train. There is no such thing as magic. People don't just vanish without a trace. And as they're going carriage by carriage, the conductor is flashing the light into each row, each face to verify that none of them are the missing wife, Gia. Lee, the husband, is glued to his phone. You know what? The whole thing is a little suspicious. Why didn't Lee go to the restroom with his wife? It's 1 a.m. on a train. Wouldn't you want to make sure that your wife gets to the restroom safely? And even if he didn't escort his wife to the restroom, how could he just fall back asleep? He couldn't wait 5 minutes for his wife to get back before going back to snoring? He fell asleep and only woke up a full 30 minutes later when the train jerked to the side? Interesting. Because the train conductor knows people do not go missing from moving trains, it means that it's more likely a situation where somebody harmed the wife. And statistically speaking, it's always the husband, is it not? Okay, to be fair, it's not always the husband, but there's a good chance that it is. And would this not be the perfect place to commit the perfect crime? Wait till the train is passing a very difficult to search area, perhaps on the edge of a mountainside cliff.
Yeah, generally.
When the perfect opportunity comes, you kill your wife, throw her out the door, say she's missing, you've already gotten rid of her body, and any one of the 1,000 people on the train could be a suspect by the time that anyone realizes that your wife is truly missing and this is an emergency situation. By that point, the train would be very far from her body. It would be such a puzzling mystery, and you would be the sad, confused husband who never gets closure. It's almost too perfect. Or if that's too risky, maybe he hid his wife's body. Perhaps the hiding locations on the train that come to mind first are the most dangerous ones. Underneath the train, or on top of the train, or maybe the storage carriage hiding amongst the cargo. But it would be nearly physically impossible for Lee to hide his wife's body in one of those areas. And now that the train conductor is looking at it, husband Lee does seem genuinely frantic to find his wife. He's been on his phone nonstop, calling her nonstop, trying to see if her phone would ring in any of the carriages. Gia, the wife, can hear her husband calling her phone nonstop. It's ringing again and again, and there's probably not even 2 seconds it hadn't been ringing in the past God knows how long. She knows it's her husband because she had set his ringtone to a custom one, and now it's just painful to listen to. Gia's laying there, not moving towards her phone. She knows it would mean a lot to her husband if she could just pick up the phone and tell him where she is, what happened, or maybe even why. Maybe he could get some semblance of closure in that way.
Wait,
But
she's
not gonna pick up
alive?
the phone. Not yet, anyway. So he's just gonna have to wait, doesn't he? She can't come to the phone right now. The train conductor is looking at Lee, making nonstop phone calls to his wife, which maybe she can't come to the phone right now, and maybe she can't be
Confused. Is
found
she
on
alive?
this train
Is that what's
because
going on?
she was never on the train to begin with. Are we even sure that husband Lee got on the train with his wife? Her purse is conveniently missing because she took it with her, but maybe she never got on the train. That seems like a logical explanation to all of this than vanishing on a moving train. I mean, think about it. There's over 1,000 people on this train right now. What are the odds that at least one of them has lost their minds? Maybe husband Lee just genuinely believes that she was on this train with him, that she boarded with him, but he's traveling alone. There was a movie called Flight Plan that came out a few years before this incident. Have you heard of the movie?
No.
It goes like this. A woman named Kyle, who happens to be an airline engineer, she
I watched
boards a
this.
flight from Berlin to the US with her little daughter, Julia. It is a very rough trip for the both of them. They flew to Berlin to claim Kyle's dead husband's body. Yeah, the husband died. He's mysteriously dead. And now they're bringing his body in the plane cargo all the way back home to the United States.
How old is the baby?
The girl in the movie is maybe 7 years old.
Oh, okay.
Now, Kyle obviously is not in her right state of mind. She just lost her husband, the father of her child, Julia. So when the plane takes off, she decides to take some anti-anxiety medication. She ends up knocking out. When she wakes up, her daughter, Julia, is gone. Kyle starts freaking out. She alerts the flight crew, very much like how Lee alerts the train conductor, and they drop everything. Well, everything but flying the plane, of course. They drop everything to help her find her missing daughter. But slowly, Kyle can feel the flight crew. They're getting distracted. They're not trying to help her. They're not making eye contact with her. What the hell is wrong with you people? My child is missing. We have to find her. Ma'am, you boarded alone. Julia, your daughter, is not on the plane's manifest. She is not a passenger on the plane. No, that can't be true because your records are incorrect. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. They aren't. We spoke with the authorities in Berlin. Your child, Julia, died in Berlin with your husband. You must be in a state of shock and grief that your brain is not processing the information. You might be hallucinating. Kyle almost believes them until she sees a tiny heart that her daughter drew on the plane's window when it got fogged up. And now she's on a mission on this plane in the air to prove that her daughter has been kidnapped on a plane, on a moving plane. In the end, at the end of the movie, Kyle is able to prove that her daughter was very much real and did board the plane.
What? Then why did they lie to her? Why did everyone lie to her?
It was a ransom. Shady people doing shady things, trying to frame her for ransom. But her daughter is very much real and very much on the plane. So the theory that husband Lee had just lost his mind and believed he boarded the train with his wife but didn't, it's quite easy to prove because he is able to show the train conductor his wife had a ticket and was seen boarding the train by the neighboring bunkmates. They all saw her before she went to the restroom, before they all fell asleep. So yes, she was on this train. And right before she went missing, they had been on the bunk asleep, and nobody has seen her since then. The train conductor and Lee start combing through the sleeping carriages once more. This is technically where Gia, the wife, was last seen, so they want to be extra thorough. This is her bunk, right? Yes. Huh, I see. On this very specific train, the K2011 Express, the bunk bed carriages, the sleeper carriages, if you will, have 6 beds per section. In each section, there are 3 rows of 2 small, tiny beds facing each other. The top, the highest 2 beds, they have the least amount of space. If you try to sit up, you're not going to be able to without crouching your neck or slamming your head on the top of the train. It is the brightest, which is one of the biggest setbacks. Even when the train turns down the lights at night, you're going to get the most light pollution since you're at the top. However, it's secluded. Passengers say if you bring a book or you bring your phone with full battery, because there's not a lot of outlets up there, that's the best bunk. Nobody's going to bother you and you're out of the line of sight by people who walk down the aisle. Nobody's that tall. Then you have the middle bunk. It probably comes shoulder height to people who are walking past in the open aisles. So if you're wearing a dress, you'd do best to cover it with a blanket. It's great if you're a scenery person. It's the only bunk with good views out the window. You can't really sit up still, but you can lay there and stare out the window if that's what you're into. It's a little less private than the very top bunk since everybody walking past is, again, eye level with your body, just about. But it's easier to get in and out of than the top bunk. Then you have the very bottom bunk. It's actually the most spacious of the 3 levels, and it even has like a small, nice table on the side that you can use. You can also fully sit up straight, so the choice to sit or lay down is fully yours. It's also relatively dark since it's covered by the top 2 bunks, which, why wouldn't everybody choose the bottom bunk then? More space, the choice to sit or lay down, it's dimly lit, you have table space. The main drawback is a lot of strangers on these trains will just sit on random people's bottom bunks to sit and chat with each other. They could even, if they wanted to, snatch your belongings. Or perhaps even you. Husband Lee and Gia are not at the bottom bunk. They're in the middle. But maybe somebody saw Gia laying in the bunk and started having very bad thoughts. Maybe they thought that they could do something to her. Maybe she was kidnapped by a stranger on the train for very sinister reasons. But if that's the case, where are they hiding her? Gia is laying there. The floor is cold, but she knows she can't move. She's tried. Even if she wants to, it's not working. It feels like she's tied down to a bed of steel nails. If she had known this was going to happen, would she have still taken the same route back to her bunk bed from the restroom? Would she have even gone to the next carriage's restroom? Or would she have just waited in line to use the one closest to her? The one closest to her husband? I mean, if she did, would things be different? Probably. She probably wouldn't be in this situation right now. Everything would probably be different. And right now, nothing is going according to plan. But there's no time to think about that. She feels the blood dripping down the lower part of her body, and she starts screaming as loud as she can. Please, somebody help me. Someone help me, please. Honey. Husband Lee is slamming his fist on the bathroom door. He never had a chance to check this restroom for his wife. And now that he thinks about it, was this restroom locked since Gia first went missing? Everyone in carriage 11 is knocked out asleep, but Lee could not care less. He's banging on the door, screaming, Gia, are you in there? Gia, open up, please. It's me, Gia, open the door. Are you in there? Lee has all sorts of probabilities running through his mind. Gia's not great with motion. Maybe she got motion sick and fainted in the restroom, and now nobody can help her unless they get this damn door open. He starts jiggling the handle of the door, trying to use brute force to get it to open, and it's not opening, and the train attendant walks over and starts unlocking the door for Lee. Maybe he could see the desperation in Lee's face. Is anybody in there? Please speak now. We're going to unlock the door. We will be opening the door now. Please knock if you're not ready. Before the attendant can unlock the door from the outside with a key, they hear click. Someone is inside the restroom. They're unlocking the door. The door creaks open just a crack, and a middle-aged man, squeezes past the door and closes it behind him. As he walks away, he does not break eye contact with Lee. He just smirks as he zips up his pants. What the hell did he do something to his wife? Lee, his heart is beating out of his chest. He turns back to the bathroom door, slams it all the way open, and inside, on carriage 11, is a very normal bathroom. Gia is not there. 1,000 random strangers on the train. It's a numbers game. How many of them have bad intentions? Once the train is in motion, the passengers are isolated from the outside world. If there is a killer, if there is someone trying to do something nasty on board the train, you're stuck. You're trapped with them. And the scariest part is you don't even know who that would be. Adding to the confusing mystery is to harm Gia, to get rid of her body from the moving train, or to hide her body so thoroughly that the train conductor cannot find her. It would require some preparations, some planning. This does not seem like it would be a very easy random crime to commit. She's not exactly a prime target either. She's a 44-year-old mother who is traveling with her husband, works as a manager for a toothpaste company. It's not like they're very wealthy and have a lot of money for ransom or a lot of things to be stolen from. She's beautiful, don't get me wrong. She does very well in her field, but she's not in a position where she's creating enemies. They live very normal, average lives. So if Gia is nowhere on the train, her husband didn't do this to her, likely a stranger didn't do this to her, maybe Gia did this to herself. Hypothetically speaking, if one wants to disappear and vanish without a trace so that nobody comes looking for them, a moving train would be a really good choice. If Gia were to vanish at work one day, everybody would be out in her hometown in the city searching for her. Neighboring cities would be on the lookout. Her case might even go viral on social media. But if she vanishes on a train, it would be such an unsolvable case that people would not be actively searching for her face in a sea of people out and about in everyday city life. They might look for her in the mountainside where she was last seen. And the steps to faking one's disappearance are very straightforward. They're pretty easy. It's uncomplicated. First step, don't get caught. Second step, don't forget the first step. It's not like it hasn't been done before. One of the most famous disappearances takes place on a train, and that is of Louis Le Prince, a French inventor. He actually created the very first motion picture photography, aka this man invented movies. He boarded a train from Dijon, France to Paris, France, and while on that train, he disappears without a trace. His vanishing, it feels very similar to Gia's. It feels like a magic trick. Even all of
He
his
made
luggage
movies
is
and then
gone,
he
but there
decided to
is proof
disappear.
that he did indeed board the train. So where the hell did he go? When the train gets to Paris, there are extensive searches to locate Louis Le Prince, and they come up with nothing. They never found him nor his belongings. It's like a magic trick. He vanished off the face of the earth on a moving train. So people start theorizing what they believe happened to Louis Le Prince. One of the theories being, if this man is so smart, he can create the first motion picture, would he not be smart enough to fake his own disappearance? Maybe he waited for the train to slow down or took advantage of an unscheduled stop and slid away to start a new life. Maybe the pressure of constantly creating new inventions and living up to his previous accomplishments was getting to him. Perhaps he realized that this is not the life that he wanted for himself and he can't face his family to tell them all of that. So he faked his own disappearance. That is one of the theories. However, the most popular theory is that Louis Le Prince did not fake his own death. The most popular theory was that someone wanted Louis Le Prince's inventions and wanted to claim his patents as their own, so they killed him. They murdered him on the train and got rid of his body. Lee, the husband, starts losing his mind on the train. He's been running through the aisles of the carriages, screaming his wife's
be
name.
surprised
No
how many
care in
of
the
those
world if he's
actually
disturbing everybody.
happen.
He just needs to find his wife. He feels like this is some sort of sick joke. How can she just vanish? He's analyzing every single person's face. Does that person look guilty? Is that my wife? Does that person look like they've just stuffed someone into their luggage? His brain is so busy hunting down his wife, it feels like the rest of his body is going into autopilot mode. He's running down the aisles. Left hand, press call. Phone up to ear. Ring, ring, ring. You have reached the voicemail. Left hand, press call. Phone up to ear. Ring, ring, ring. You have reached the voicemail of. Left hand, press call. Phone up to ear. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Lee freezes. He looks down at his phone. It's the correct number. It's his wife's number. And a man has just picked up the phone. Hello? Where? Sir, your wife is at the hospital. Please come meet her. How the hell did his wife get off this train and to a hospital? Husband Lee is sitting on the floor, crouched down with his back leaned up against the hospital door. He's squatting. He's clenching his teeth, trying to hold in his own sobs. The types of screams he can hear from inside the hospital room are not normal. They're primal, like attacked and shredded by a cheese grater. He had never heard someone scream like that ever in his life, and they were all coming from his wife Gia. He can hear her through the door. Ow, please, my left leg. It hurts so much. I need more painkillers. I'm in agony. Please, just make the pain go away. Somebody needs to help me, please. The pain Gia has been going through has been so overwhelming, all-consuming, that Gia has not been able to sleep, eat. She can't even distract herself. All day, all night, all she does is scream until she exhausts herself and her throat is on fire. The screams from inside the room keep getting louder. Husband Lee knows he needs to go in there. So he quickly takes a deep breath, wipes his tears on the back of his hand, clears his nose, straightens out his back, puts on a smile, opens the door, and walks in. Every day, multiple times a day, this is what he does. He walks in there, sits on the edge of the hospital bed, and he puts his hand near his wife. He doesn't touch her, but he gets close. Shh, honey, it's okay. It's okay. I know you feel a lot of pain in your left leg, but you have to remember what the doctor said. It's in your head, honey. Tell yourself the pain is not real.
I don't know how I feel about
because
the background music.
You don't have a left leg anymore. She looks down, and her left leg, her left arm, and her right foot are all gone. Severed. Gia has lost 3 limbs, but she can still feel all of them. It's called phantom limb pain. It's when an individual perceives feeling, and a lot of the times painful feelings in a limb that are no longer...
I'm still in shock. Hold on. How the found Stephanie? Her leg and her arm are gone? Oh my fuck. I'm gonna have to censor that. Oops. What? Oh. No. No. What? I mean, phantom pain does exist. I'm not gonna lie, it is something that exists, and I do see it. Not necessarily in humans. I work in the animal field, and animals that have had limbs, amputated and that kind of fun, I guess, things. Not fun, but those kinds of things. They will have phantom pains. Animals will have phantom pains. It's not very common, just because animals tend to not show you that they're hurt or anything, but it does happen.
The limb doesn't exist anymore, but the brain thinks it's still there. The nervous system sends out receptors and gets confused because they're not being relayed properly, which eventually translates into the sufferer feeling pain. In essence, the nerves in your spinal cord that lead to the brain still exist from that limb that's been severed. Your brain senses something is wrong because those nerves stop sending signals, and that triggers a pain response, which is usually the body's default response when they feel like something is wrong. They force you to feel pain to alert you, hey, something's not right here. The brain is a very powerful organ. Think of it like this. You have a best friend that you have spoken to every single day of your entire life, every second of every day. You've spent every single waking moment with them, and then one day they suddenly ghost you. But your brain cannot comprehend or remember a time where you've been without them and you're confused. How can they just be gone? Nothing makes sense. You have no closure. You're bound to feel some sort of pain and confusion for a very long time. This is so much worse. One netizen said, I had an amputation right below the knee. I experienced phantom pain. It starts like someone has a lighter under the sole of my foot that is no longer there. It heats up. I can feel my foot on fire, but the foot is no longer there. And then bam, like someone slams a giant spike through my non-existent foot, just stabbing it, piercing it all the way through, and that pain slowly shoots up my leg all the way up to the rest of my body. Another netizen said, early on, my phantom pain felt like my foot was being crushed by a metal bar across the top of my foot and being electrocuted all at the same time. But the foot didn't exist anymore. Another netizen writes, I feel like my foot is being crushed, constantly electrocuted, stabbed with a dull knife, and any other pain that you can imagine. There's also the weird sensations that aren't necessarily painful, but it drives you crazy. Itching. You want to itch your foot so bad, but when you go down to itch and relieve some of that, it's not there, but it keeps itching. Another one that drives you crazy is I feel like I'm dipping my foot into a cold lake. It's so cold, I'm getting frostbite on my toes, but my foot is not there. As for Gia, she said, the first attack of phantom limb pain made me scream so loud until I couldn't scream anymore. Lee did not want to ask his wife too much about what happened, so he tried to get bits and pieces from the investigators, the ones that first found Gia and came to the scene. When they got out there, they didn't honestly know what they were looking at. They told Lee, we thought, is this a woman? A man? It has to be a person though, right? We had no clue. The investigator said it was difficult to even tell if it was a person, actually. It was just a pile of blood and limbs, like a bloody blob. But it had to be. Logically, it made sense, but their brains would not let them comprehend it, or rather comprehend who they're looking at. They look down at the ground, there's blood and body parts scattered like a human puzzle. The person they're staring at basically only has half their body left. And they're thinking, what the hell happened to this poor woman? Who did this to her? There's something called melanoheliophobia. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it is the fear of black holes, like the ones in space. The fear of objects with such extreme mass and gravity that it consumes even light itself. Just visually speaking, people say that looking into a black hole, even just the photos, right, because that's all we have, is terrifying. To know that once you get sucked into the black hole, you become spaghetti. Spaghettification, that's what they say. You fall into a black hole, it compresses your body down from the top to the toe and then stretches you at the same time, and it turns you into literal human spaghetti. That's probably why a lot of people have a intense fear, intense emotions when they stare into a black hole. And the investigators for the train company are huddled together in a circle, bent over, staring straight into the black hole. Impossible. I mean, how can such a... I can't even believe it. In the middle of carriage 14, there is a black hole. Well, okay, not really. You know those trash cans where you press down and the sides will push down, letting you throw the garbage in with your hand? Unless someone steps on this particular spot of the carriage, the floor, the hole does not open up. It's almost like a false bottom, a magic trick. And they've taken off the compartment.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right here. I'm pretty sure I know where this is going, and nah, I'm gonna have some theories right now. It's, I don't know, I feel like if you know about this contraption, you work on this train. You know this train. So, it's somebody who's working on the train, whether it's an attendant, the conductor, somebody who works on this train did something to this poor woman. That is my little theory right now. But yeah, I'm gonna stop the video right here. And I'll see you guys in part 2. But hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.